The future of gaming is finally here. I've had a little over 3 weeks to play around with the PlayStation 5, deciding to break it in with Spider-Man Miles Morales, Demon's Souls, and of course Astro's Playroom, which comes preloaded on the system. I'll be doing individual videos for each of those games, but in the meantime I'd like to go over my experience so far with the actual console itself, and give some of my thoughts on Sony's new black and white behemoth. I have to say I wasn't a massive fan of the look of the console when it was revealed. I liked the actual design of the box, but the colour scheme seemed a bit out of place with previous iterations. But I'm happy to say that I've grown to really like it. The white definitely makes it stand out underneath my TV. There's been a lot of talk about the size of the console, which I thought was a little bit overblown when I took mine out of the box, but after standing it next to a PlayStation 4, I realised just how massive it is. Though the ability to either stand it up or lie it down means you shouldn't have too much trouble finding a spot for it in your setup. The inclusion of a clip-on stand is also a nice feature. Setting up the console took just under an hour for me, but that's because I foolishly decided to transfer my PS4 save data over right away, so this process would probably take 15 minutes or so if you decided to skip that. The PlayStation app integration also makes signing into your PlayStation account especially smooth, and you have the option to install a game in the background while the console is setting up. We have a sleek new UI. Like the PS4, you still have a bar of your most recently used games and apps, and pressing the PlayStation button brings up a customizable shortcut menu. The PlayStation Store is also now integrated into the console's menus instead of a separate app. Stopping on a game in the menu will display artwork and play music from that specific game, replacing system themes, which I know is something a lot of people are disappointed with, though my guess would be that themes will be reintroduced at some stage down the road. While I understand the reason behind the removal of themes, for some reason folders have also been removed, and for the life of me I can't understand why. It can kind of make navigating your games library a bit more of a hassle than necessary, but again I'd imagine this feature will be reintroduced in a future update. Cards are a massive new innovation, allowing you to jump directly to specific in-game objectives. For example, if you want to tackle a gang hideout in Spider-Man, you press the PlayStation button, which brings up cards showing various objectives you haven't completed. Pressing play on a card jumps you to that mission, and with PS5's impressively fast loading, this jump is almost instant. It's basically fast travel on steroids. The cards also show a rough time estimate for that objective, so the intention seems to be that if you only have an hour to play, it allows you to maximize what you can get done in that time. Not just directly jumping you to the objective you want to complete, eliminating the need to travel across the map, but also informing you what you're going to have time to do. Game help videos are an interesting idea, allowing you to view short clips that can give you hints on how to beat a boss in Demon's Souls, or where to find certain collectibles in Astro's Playroom. However, at the moment, it's often much simpler to just go to YouTube, since not all games utilize it or have videos for the specific objective you need help with. Funny enough, I think the launch titles I went with each happen to best showcase a specific feature of the PS5. Spider-Man Miles Morales shows off some next-gen tech, specifically ray tracing, which allows for more realistic lighting and reflections, though initially this feature wasn't available in performance mode, which runs the game at 60 frames per second. The game was just recently patched to allow ray tracing at 60 frames, at the expense of other visual touches like resolution and pedestrian density. Demon's Souls I think serves as the primary showcase for the PS5's sheer graphical capabilities. With incredibly detailed environments, particle effects, textures, it's certainly one of the most visually stunning games I've ever played, even on performance mode. But what I think is the most impressive innovation of the PS5 doesn't actually come from the console itself, but from its controller. The DualSense is undoubtedly the most new aspect of the PS5, with Astro's Playroom doubling as both a fun little platformer and as a tech demo for the controller. You might have heard in marketing and reviews about haptic feedback or adaptive triggers, and like me, not really understood what they meant or the full impact they would have. Basically on a DualShock 4, rumbles are on a scale. The controller vibrates at a certain strength, so an explosion would vibrate at a 10, whereas a character landing from a jump might be a 5. With haptic feedback there's more variation, so vibrations can be focused on different areas of the controller, and can be not just stronger and weaker, but also lighter and heavier. So in Astro's Playroom this is used to replicate the feeling of a zipper being closed, or of Astro's metal feet clinking on different surfaces. And in Demon's Souls it can warn you of incoming attacks, like a firebomb being thrown at you. The other major feature of the DualSense is adaptive triggers, which allows the triggers to give resistance when being pressed. So for example, if you're firing a bow, the trigger will tense up, the same way a bowstring would when pulled back. These new features can be a bit jarring at first, but you get used to them, and you'll be surprised how much they can add to the immersion. I'm very excited to see how creative developers are going to get with the DualSense going forward, particularly with the haptics. Considering how effective they were during Demon's Souls' more frightening areas, I think horror game developers are going to have a lot of fun with them, and I can only imagine how somebody like Kojima is going to use them. To be honest though, as much as I can try, describing these new features doesn't really do them justice, and to really understand the impact they'll have on the PS5 experience going forward, it's something you kind of have to try firsthand. On the more negative side, I did run into a few performance issues. My console crashed twice while playing Astro's Playroom, and 4 times during Spider-Man Miles Morales, with 2 of those crashes actually uninstalling the game. So that was a bit frustrating. That said, during my 50 hours with Demon's Souls, the console didn't freeze or crash once. So this seems to be more of an issue with specific games than the console itself. Having to choose between performance and fidelity handheld emotes is also somewhat disappointing. This is a feature that was introduced with the PS4 Pro, and it's something that kind of highlights the system's technical limitations, which is sort of unusual to have at the beginning of a console's lifecycle. That said, as developers get more used to the hardware and begin to push the boundaries of what the system can do, I'm sure we're going to see this line blurred as time goes on. And lastly, a scant 665GB of storage is clearly insufficient, especially considering most games will range in size between 60 and 100 gigs. It's even recommended by Sony that you use an external hard drive for PS4 games to save on internal storage, so they're clearly aware that this space is inadequate. I haven't had to delete anything for space yet, but most likely will have to start in the next couple of months. All in all, I've immensely enjoyed my first few weeks with the PS5. Not only does it have a stellar launch lineup, but the innovations that come with the DualSense controller bring what I think is an exciting and surprising new addition to the way we experience games. It does have a few shortcomings, but I think that's to be expected with a brand new console, and many of those will likely be addressed in updates going forward. Like the beginning of every console's lifespan, what we've seen so far is only a fraction of what this system is capable of, and what we'll see from it going forward. So those are just some of my thoughts on the PlayStation 5. What do you think about it? Are you going to wait a few months to pick one up, or have you even been able to find one? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe for all things PlayStation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.